Well, I hope when the hectic period is over, the budget period is over, that the government will use all of their diplomatic power to begin lobbying the International Olympic Committee to have kite flying included as an Olympic sport, because I think on the basis of what we've seen and heard over the last few weeks from the government via the media, we certainly would be in with a great shout of winning a few gold medals. Literally, the whole budget has been in the public domain for weeks. It's been spun out of existence as a great budget, and when the reality is it's a budget of compromise. But if there's one thing I've learnt, it's that the devil is in the detail. And until we can see the actual detail, we won't know the effects of what it delivers for the ordinary people who want the government to do their job and make the economy work for them, not just make them work for the economy. I say compromised ideas because there's not one big idea in the whole thing. Not one groundbreaking initiative that would ease the cost of living with the potential to reduce inflation. The fundamental cause of the crisis we're currently in is the cost of fuel. Fuel costs affect every aspect of our lives, our daily commutes to work, to school, heating our homes, lighting our homes. Fuel costs determine the cost of the weekly food shop, the clothes we put in our backs, and yet government refused to tackle the core of the crisis and continue to tax the tax. You could have taken my proposal to remove all excise from fuel, fuel being the common thread of the increase in the cost of everything, and monitored the impact. Carers, SNAs and childcare workers gave up their jobs because it was cheaper to do that than fill the car with diesel or petrol. It would have had a positive impact, Las Ceann Comhairle. Last March, this government said it couldn't reduce excise, it would cost too much and it would drive inflation. And eventually, it was all because the EU said we couldn't. Many media commentators and economists say this budget will potentially drive inflation. I, for one, hope they're wrong. But I suspect that they're not, because the core focus to date has not been the people or businesses of Ireland. It has been to remain in government at all costs, and the tail continues to wag the dog. The announcement that previously an EU VAT directive said you could not remove the VAT from life-saving defibrillators. But after much negotiation, according to Minister Donoghue today, it is now possible. I propose that this VAT exemption be extended to all voluntary charity ambulance services, as they indeed save the government millions of euro annually attending public gatherings, depending mostly on contributions. On behalf of the people struggling to put fuel in their cars, food on the table, and afraid to heat their homes, you might apologise for not extending your negotiating skills to reducing the VAT rates on fuel, because you used the EU as an excuse for that also. And to do that, it would have been just one big idea that would or couldn't have meant compromise. But instead, you've come along with short-term measures from a short-sighted government devoid of new ideas. In last year's budget, a 40-kilo bag of coal was in or around €25. Next week, it's tipping €40, and your increase of €12 and the fuel allowance measures, though welcome, don't go far enough and will not cover the cost for the past year's increases. My concern is that you're going ahead with the carbon tax increase, despite that there are no readily available alternatives, which make people depending on these measures very nervous. All homes have seen the standing charges quadruple to as much as €400 on their ESB or gas bill. Some small, medium enterprises, local businesses, have standing charges of as much as €1,200. And while Minister Eamon Ryan's refusal on the floor last week to introduce the emergency legislation required to give power to the energy regulator to deal with the exponential and totally unnecessary standing charge increases, it is nothing short of mind-boggling. A measure that would have given certainty and prevented extortion by energy companies. But maybe the idea was just too big, and as the Greens are dictating the terms of which now this government stays in existence, it's not surprising. It's equally mind-boggling that at a time when we are in the worst housing crisis in living memory, you would throw fuel on the fire and introduce a concrete block levy, driving up the cost of all new houses and all renovations, Lascaux Corla, it's incomprehensible. Can you not instead resource the Department of Housing to introduce a retraining and upskilling of all of the public servants, from the planning regulator to the directors of services to the planners in every county council, all involved in the planning system, to ensure that they know the law and can comply with the law when making planning decisions, which would save the country millions on judicial reviews taken by the people that they've wronged because they don't know the law. It is a requirement that is insisted upon in almost every other profession: continuous professional practice. The theme of this government is spin, and so is the spending of money, in particular headline announcements on the services which no one would have the physical resource, which we know you do not have the physical resources or people to deliver. We didn't deliver the carers provided for in last year's budget. You didn't meet the reductions in waiting lists as provided for in last year's health budget. And you didn't issue the guidelines for the tenant purchase scheme announced either. But this year's budget announces another 6,000 recruits into the public service, kite flying all of the way. Wexford has been awaiting a dietitian for the CAM service for over 2 years. And not only do we not have one recruited, but there has been an announcement that we'll have a third CAMS unit. Measures that are cart before the horse, that have been, and I have said it many times and it's been said many times today, a trademark of much of what I've seen, yet serious proposals are put forward by myself and other independents have been ignored. And I hope you remember the solutions that you rejected, which were viable and can provide energy solutions on this island for homeowners and small businesses in a manner that brings them certainty, not leaves them wondering where they're going and when they'll have to pay it all back. It's apparent that the Greens are running the show, and Fianna Fáil and Fine Gael are allowing it because they can only think of staying in power. Fine Gael are there too long to have any brain surge. Fianna Fáil, who were the mudguards in the last arrangement and soon to be the mudguard again, devoid of any original ideas. Did nobody hear Barry Cowan when he said, "What's required is one big idea"? To be honest, Lascaux Corla, the only thing new today was the minister's suit. Thank you.
Deputy Cathal Berry.